Am I live? Hi everyone. Really happy to be live with Russ Thomas. Do you want to start us off, Russ, with intro to you and your book?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on. My name is Russ Thomas. I am the author of the DS Adam Tyler series, set in Sheffield. They're about a cold case detective who is a little bit unorthodox, a little bit strange. And the latest one is called Sleeping Dogs and is available now in paperback. It picks up, if you've read my others, it sort of picks up after the last one left off, but you don't have to have read the others in order to enjoy it. Like the other books, it stands alone, and this one perhaps even more so, because at the very start we see Adam Tyler investigating something, and then he is, well, without too many spoilers, he's incapacitated, shall we say, and it's left to his sort of second in command, his protege, Mina Rabbani, the young DC who works with him, to figure out what he was working on and what exactly happened to him.
We've already got a hello from Sarah Blackburn.
Hi.
You might have come across her. She's very fond of attending lots of local
Yes. Yeah.
lots of crime events.
We've had many chats.
Pardon?
We've had a few chats over the years, yeah.
Yeah, she's a legend. So you were saying this one reads as standalone, which is really good because this is my introduction to your books.
How did you find it as a standalone then?
I felt like I'd missed some things.
Yeah.
But it did work as a standalone. And it works very well because it's made me want to go back and buy all the rest of the books.
Good.
So it has like yeah, it's completed the
Yeah, it's always tricky to try and get the right balance, because people who have been reading want to know how the characters have developed and their lives and you know what's moved on, and you have to kind of refer to the past without giving too much away, because you don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it. So I'm hoping that you feel as you read it that there's enough teasers there to whet your appetite, to make you want to go back and find out, you know, how these characters have got where they are. But also, I think it's important when you're writing a series that you don't necessarily you don't ignore what's happened in the past. You know, it always annoys me on soap operas when they, you know, something bizarre happens to a character, and then you think, well, wait a minute, that exact same thing happened to them 2 years ago, and they've not referenced it. You know, so it's a tricky balance.
I mean, it does help, like you said, that this one's not your main kind of character, is it? It's kind of the...
Yeah, although of course what I didn't explain is that it's sort of split across two timelines. So we get Mina's story in the present over the course of sort of a week while she investigates what's happened to Tyler, and then we get Tyler's story starting about 6 months before the opening of the novel and working forward to the present day. So it jumps back and forth between the two, which I really enjoyed writing and was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a chance. I really wanted to give Mina a chance to shine a bit more, to get out from under Tyler's kind of shadow and sort of see what she could do. But also I was aware that I didn't want to write Tyler out completely, because people are still wanting to know, you know, what's happened to him and stuff. So hopefully there's a bit of both.
She is a great character. I can see why you wanted to bring her out of the
Yeah,
a little bit.
everyone does love her, and I always get asked, oh, can we have more Mina? So I thought, all right then, give the audience what they want. Let's have more Mina. She's an interesting character, because I didn't really set about to write her. She sort of just turned up and took over a little bit, and I quite like that. I think, well, I'll go with that and see where it goes.
I mean, the other sort of members of the unit that you don't sort of spend as much time with also seems pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, Dobbitt's a firm favourite, firm fan favourite. He's kind of modelled on those old school detectives that we are, the trope that we're very familiar with in crime fiction. The sort of dogged is part of his name. Dogged is sort of dogged, determined, uh, old gumshoe who breaks the rules quite a lot. But I also wanted to make him a bit more complicated than that and a bit of a twist on that trope. So he's very Yorkshire. He's very left wing. He's very sort of modern in an old fashioned way, if that makes sense. But not in the least bit politically correct. Gets into trouble all the time. A bit out of his time, sort of like he stepped from the 70s, but he's quite clever as well, and sort of like, yeah, he's a lot of fun. And in this book, the first time we actually get to see things from his point of view. Previous books I've never done that, and that was fun too. Yeah, that was great fun to sort of explore his thoughts and feelings, and where he's coming from.
Do you think in other stories or other books going ahead in the series, you'd sort of put other voices to the front again, since this one seems to have worked so well?
Yeah, I mean, I won't talk about it too much, but I've got lots of plans for what I might do in the future. But yeah, I'd like to do more with all of the characters in different ways. It feels a bit like a family in some respects, like members of my extended members of my family, and I keep checking on them and see what they're doing and where they're going.
So what made you said the first one came out in February 2020? What made you get started on the journey with Adam?
Well, I'd always wanted to write, and I've always have written since I was very young, younger than a teen, kind of late. I don't know what you call the first decade. I don't know. Sort of like junior school, I was writing bits and pieces and things. Just always loved reading. Was really into books. Read a lot of crime when I was a teenager, but then I kind of moved away from the crime world and didn't really write anything crime related. I think I was, as a young sort of late teenage, early 20 something, I was quite pretentious and wanted to write the next great British novel and win the Booker Prize, and I did an MA in writing and started writing that, and my tutor said to me, "Oh, I like your characters and I like your writing very much, but you haven't got much of a story. What's going on here?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, you're right. I do need one of those." And I kind of fell back on those memories of things I read when I was a teenager, and sort of thought, "Oh no, I'll throw a body in. There'll be a body discovered," and all of a sudden I realised I was writing a crime novel, and I had to kind of embrace that and go with it. And once I did, it was much more enjoyable. Then, of course, I had to find a hero to kind of investigate, and I didn't have any idea really who that was going to be. I sort of decided at quite an early stage it would be a gay character, because I'd not sort of read that much in crime fiction as a main sort of gay male character. But the very early drafts were too much me. I'd put way too much of myself into the character, and it just wasn't working. And I rewrote it, changed the point of view, changed the tense it was written in. Everything you could possibly do to a manuscript, I did it, and twice over, and then rewrote it again, and kept going. And in that process, Adam Tyler was born, and I don't really know how. He just sort of, I wouldn't say he came fully formed. It was a bit kicking and screaming. I had to drag him off the page, but once he did turn up, I thought, oh yeah. I suppose to some extent I just made him as opposite to me as possible. I just thought, yeah, I would be rubbish at investigating a crime, so I need somebody who's probably the opposite of me in all ways. and that kind of worked. So yeah, he was born, and he's difficult. He doesn't get on with people very much. Well, he doesn't care about pleasing anyone. He only cares about getting the job done, and that makes quite difficult relationships with his partners and friends. Um, he he investigates cases, so he goes back and looks at things that nobody else has bothered to, or if they haven't managed to find an answer to, which also brings him up against his colleagues in quite a long way, because he's often correcting their work essentially and sort of saying that they've got things wrong. So I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic to have. It basically gives you lots of opportunity for a lot of conflict, and conflict's always good in drama.
I think you're probably wrong about not being able to solve a crime, because if you can write a really inventive literary crime, then you're probably a bit better at like puzzle solving than you think.
Possibly. I'm notoriously bad at Cluedo or any of those kinds of things where you have to try to guess who done it. Although we did I did an author table at Harrogate Festival this year, and we did get an honourable mention. We came second because we got the right answer, but we didn't quite get the motive right. So maybe there is hope for me.
That's good. I was at Harrogate this year, but only for a day.
Oh really? What day you were?
Went on a Saturday.
Yeah, so Saturday I was quite busy. I had to do quite a few interviews and things, and then the author dinner in the evening. But it was lovely. It was really good. Felt like it was a really good atmosphere this year. It was great.
Yeah, I got to hang out with lots of really cool people, which was nice.
Yeah, always good.
Yeah, definitely. Sarah's asking you if you've ever acted out any scenes, either in private or in public.
Yes. There's a scene that's in my third book, Cold Reckoning, which I've just seen is on the shelf behind me here. There's a body found frozen in a freezer, and sorry, spoiler alert, but it's not a big deal. I won't tell you the details. And I actually got my friend to. I was trying to work out how the body would be positioned and which bits would have touched the freezer, so that where the burn marks would be, and so I got him to curl up on the floor in a fetal position so that I could photograph him and see what bits would be touching surfaces. And yeah, that's probably the oddest thing I've asked someone to do for me. And he was very, very kindly willing to do that.
That is absolutely brilliant. You're not even in the weirdest answers to that question. You're fine.
No, no. Most stuff just goes on in my head, and I just imagine it and figure it out. But sometimes there's practical reasons you've got to visualize something. I do speak a lot of my lines out. Walk around doing lines of dialogue to myself. That's a bit mad. If anyone heard me and what I was saying, it would probably could be misconstrued.
I don't know. Sometimes I think if you talk to yourself in general, you just get the answer that you want.
That's true. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a bit of speaking your dialogue aloud.
I've just noticed a very impressive TBR pile. What that is behind you there? That's fantastic. Oh my word!
It's not a TBR pile.
It's just waiting for a shelf.
No, it's books I've read.
Right.
That are being kept.
Very good.
The TBR pile's over here somewhere that you can't see.
Right, wait on.
Did I read somewhere that you were a bookseller for a while as well?
I was, and I am again, actually. Yeah, I'm back working at Waterstones for Christmas this year. which is great, but I always forget how busy it is and how intense it is and how tiring it is, especially when I've been sitting around all year on my bum. Now I'm having to run around filling shelves and stuff. But yeah, I worked in bookselling since I was about 16. Started off had a Saturday job up in London. So I was a bit older than that. I must have been about 18, I think, 17 maybe. I had a job in a bookshop called Motor Books, which was a specialist shop that sold motoring, military, and aviation books in just off Charing Cross Road. And I used to travel up to London every day, not every day, sorry, on Saturdays. It was literally just a Saturday job. And then I'd get all my money. I'd ask for my pay at lunchtime so I could go out and spend it on comics, and then I would. People basically felt like you were working the afternoon for free. And I worked during the summer. I worked for Blackwell's for a little while, and then Lee Hammett at Waterstones. So I was at Waterstones for about 20 years on and off. But yeah.
You do not look old enough to work at Waterstones for 20 years.
Did what, sorry?
I said you don't look old enough to have worked at Waterstones.
Well, thank you very much, but I definitely am.
So, why did you choose to set the book? I know you live in Sheffield, but why did you choose to set the books in Sheffield?
Oh yeah, good question. It's interesting. I didn't at first. I tried different places because I suppose it made sense to me to set them here. But I've always struggled to write about Sheffield because I don't think it's very easy to write about the place you live sometimes, because you don't really pay attention to it in the same way as you do when you go and visit somewhere. So it's difficult to get right. And then I tried setting it in various places, and in the end I thought, no, that doesn't seem quite right. And specifically, I suppose I've not read a series set in Sheffield. There are other series, and they're very good. Michael Wood writes good series, the Matilda Dart series, which is set here. But I hadn't read those at the time. And I thought, yeah, it seemed a bit untapped. Also, Sheffield City it's really big city, but it gets left off the map a lot. It does get ignored. It gets kind of beaten down by Big Brother Leeds up in the north, and it's like evil cousin Manchester over in the west. And it often gets forgotten about. If there's a music tour, you'll see that the bands stop everywhere, but not Sheffield. I guess because they don't need to. So I thought, well, one good way of paying Sheffield back for its sort of hospitality and taking me in as an undergraduate would be to set it here and to try and explore the city, maybe show people some facets of it that they're not familiar with. So I always try and put a little bit of Sheffield in the books, to try and get a sense of what the city is, what it's about, who the people are that live here. I think it's right that it's a city, because the awful things that happen in my books, I wouldn't want to put them onto a small place. But I feel like Sheffield has broad enough shoulders it can manage.
One of my favourite comic shops is in Sheffield.
Oh really? Which one? The Space Centre?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Space
great.
Centre's great.
Yes, I've spent a lot of time in there over the years.
And a lot of money. Yeah, I've spent a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
But they're great.
But they're great comic shops as well, doesn't it? I like a day out in Leeds and go around all the comic shops. There's one in the little alleyway, isn't there? I can't remember what it's called. That's brilliant.
OK Comics.
OK Comics, that's the one. Yeah, I love it in there.
One of my favourite author chat questions to ask, and I'm going to ask you this because I don't think you've been on with us before. And you like comic shops. is would you like a graphic novel version of one of your books?
Oh, okay. I would definitely write a graphic novel. In fact, I've attempted to on a number of occasions. But unfortunately, I'm a terrible artist, so I need an artist to team up with. I don't know if I would want to write an adaptation of one of my books. I feel like that would be a bit like adapting it to TV or film. That I'm maybe a bit too close to the project, and I would struggle to know what to cut out. Does that make sense? I feel like I don't know. I'd give it a go, but I think I'd be too precious and too close to it to do it justice. So maybe I'd let someone else do that. But yeah, I love comics. I have thousands of comics just through that door behind me. Yeah.
Do you have a particular favourite kind of run or artist or writer?
I'm a huge X-Men fan. So basically, I've got X-Men comics going right back to the 70s. I do like. What have I been reading recently? To be honest, I haven't been reading a lot recently. Ed Brubaker, quite like Ed Brubaker. Lock and Key, I think that was one of the more recent things I've read. Sandman, Why the Last Man. Brian K. Vaughan's a really good writer.
So you can't go wrong with a Brian K. Vaughan series, can you? They're all great.
With what, sorry?
All of his series are great.
Yeah, they are fantastic. Mike Carey as well, MC Carey, anything that he writes, I'm obsessed with. I think he's a brilliant writer. Yeah.
Nice. Donna, who's watching, said that someone
Sorry.
Sorry?
What have I not read that I should read? What would you recommend?
Comic-wise, I don't know. I like weird comics.
Weird.
Well, I don't know. Superhero-wise, I like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's like the ones that I've read the most different runs of. And I've got a lot of love for the really hated I Ching era of Wonder Woman.
Right. Yeah, I loved Wonder Woman when it was on the TV when I was a kid. The Carter Wonder
Woman. And I like Lumberjanes. That was part of my big pile here.
Which one?
There's a comic series called Lumberjanes.
Oh yes, yeah. I know Lumberjanes. Yeah, I've not read that actually. Yeah, I will. I'll check that out. I'm
really working my way through them. I've got quite a pile of them on the side there.
Brilliant.
But yeah, Donna was saying that someone she knows just got a grant from the Arts Council to make a graphic novel.
Really? Okay. Note to self. Thank you, Donna.
And Sarah wants to know if you think you'd collaborate with Michael Wood, Matilda and Adam joining forces to fight evil.
I don't know. I've not spoken to him about it. I'm not. I suspect not. Not because of Michael, but because I find writing quite a personal thing, and I can't imagine collaborating with someone. Although I think I would for a graphic novel, an artist, and obviously that would be a collaboration. You can't just write something and expect them to draw it. So I suppose I would. I don't know. Possibly. Who knows?
Would you? I mean, you must. I guess it's a different kind of collaboration, but you must lean on people for research occasionally.
Yes, but of course I can decide to take on board or reject whatever they tell me as I want. It's still my story, and if I decide that the research I've done is getting in the way of the story I want to tell, I'll just ignore it, or I will find a way around it because it's always good to try not to get things wrong. But sometimes for the sake of artistic license, you've got to play around a bit. And equally, it is collaborative writing a novel because you work with editors and copy editors and proofreaders, and of course the people that I rely on for feedback even before it goes to my editor and my agent and stuff. So all of those people do have an input, but at the end of the day, it's still my decision. I can decide yes or no to something. I really am in awe of people who write books together. I don't know how they do it. Like Nikki French and people like that. I just think it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, but perhaps not for me. Maybe I'm too miserable, like sitting on my own, coming up with.
What made you decide to make them kind of into research and cold cases? I really liked it, by the way. I'm just curious as to what made you go that route.
Yeah, good question. I honestly can't remember. I think it possibly was. Yeah, I think it was because I needed him to do something that he could feasibly do on his own. So when we meet Tyler in Firewatching, he's kind of being punished. He's given this job as in cold cases because no one else wants to do it. So it needed to be something that was sort of removed, but could conceivably be something that people looked into. And he's not really expected to get results. They just pile work in front of him and say, look into these, see what you can find out. And then he runs with it. So that was the reason that he was in disgrace and it needed to be something removed. Murder cases have teams of, or if they're serious, they'll have teams of hundreds of people working on them at any one time. So I wanted to avoid that because I didn't want that many characters in the novel. So yeah, it was a way around that, really. And it's really interesting. One of the things I did with Sleeping Dogs was I spoke to a friend of mine, Dave, who has become a friend. He's a DCI who works for South Yorkshire Police, actually investigating cold cases. And I've spoken to him a number of times over the years, and he's given me more information about how it works and everything. And I said to him, most of my books start with them finding a body. A body's dug up somewhere, or it's been buried, or whatever. It comes to the surface, and that kicks off this investigation, and they find out, like it always does on the telly. But I'm guessing that very rarely happens in real life. And he was like, yeah, no, that never happens. So I said, how does a case start for you? What kicks it off? What makes you decide I'm going to look into this case rather than that one? And he gave me a whole list of things, but the one that stuck with me and I thought, oh, that's interesting, was he said, sometimes we'll get an anonymous letter. It will just come into the police station and it will say, I know in what done the murder, it was so-and-so. And then they have to investigate to see, is it credible? Is it someone who's just got beef with someone else down the pub and wants to find out, he wants to drop in it for something? Or is it someone who has actually been boasting down the pub, and then actually it turns out they had nothing to do with it whatsoever? Sometimes it will be a wife who's been sort of abused or certainly under the thumb of her husband, and he's died, sort of given her freedom to actually come forward and speak up for the first time, but they don't always want to do it by name. And I just thought that idea was really interesting, as a starting place for an investigation. Just a random letter doesn't really give you much information. So that's what starts Tyler off on this in this book, on investigating what he's looking into. Sorry, you asked me that question, or if I've just rambled on something else.
I don't think it matters. It was a good answer.
Okay.
Sarah wants to know if you're planning on writing book 5 or doing a new series.
Both, but I can't say much on that at the minute.
Non-book related, have you got a Golden Girls cushion behind you?
Yes. Yeah. This room is full of weird bits. My good friend Claire bought me that for my birthday a couple of years ago. Yeah,
I was very distracted by it. I was like,
I'll move over.
no, it's fine.
This way, see my murder she did tote bag.
So, has there been any interest in adapting the book?
Yes, there is a plan to do something. I can't really say much more than that at the minute. And whether it does happens or not, I don't know. You just have to wait and see, I'm afraid. It's very early days.
Sam, who also does your chat here, likes to ask who you would play in the adaptation.
I don't know, probably Body on Gurney #3 or something. I'm not in any way an actor. I used to run the Drama Society when I was at university, and how I managed to do that when I can't act for toffee is anybody's guess. Mainly I did it to write my own plays and get them performed. No, I'm not much of an actor. I wouldn't mind a little walk-on part or something in the background, but yeah, I wouldn't want to see me in one of the main roles. Who's the closest to me? I suppose in age it would be. I was going to say Tom, but actually I'm probably nearer to Doggett's age now. Yeah, I can't do a Yorkshire accent well enough to do Doggett, I don't think. So yeah, good question though. I like that. Never thought of that before. No one's asked me that.
Did you move up to Yorkshire for university? I did. That's the reason I still live here.
Yeah, I wanted to get as far away from where I grew up as possible. No, that's not true. I came north when I was an undergraduate to study at Sheffield Hallam, and I thought it was the strangest place because people talk to each other. You'd go and sit waiting for the tram, and an old lady would turn to you and start having a chat with you like she was your best friend. And I remember once and saying, it's just so friendly up here. It's not like London where everyone sits with their head buried in a book, or at least they did then in those days. Now they're just on their phones. But people actually talk to each other. It's just really friendly. And she said, oh, no, that's not friendliness, love. That's nosiness. And I thought, oh, well, the way it works for me. But yeah, I loved it. And I did go back south for a little while. I got a job in London when I graduated. Didn't have the best experience, hated commuting into the city. And then as soon as I was able, I came back north again. I came back to Sheffield.
So it sounds fun. I moved there to university and never left.
That was why you...
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you stayed there then?
Yeah, I came to Leeds University, and then I was basically just lived in Leeds since.
Yeah. It holds a, I don't know, the north is always an amazing place when us southerners get here. Well, you're not so much a southerner, are you, because you're Lincolnshire, but it seems like a land of bread and honey. And yet I think traditionally the idea is northerners go south thinking that's the place of greatness, but no, they're wrong.
For someone who's adopted it, you get the nuances and the accents and stuff. So, because that's like, you mentioned that in the book, you talk about someone having a distinctive Leeds kind of thing compared to Sheffield and things.
I mean, it's easier to do on the page because it's more about words them and stuff. I don't write a full accent because it would be barely unreadable. I've tried things where everything's took this, took that, and it doesn't always come across well on the page. So I like to just put a sprinkling in and refer to it without actually necessarily showing it, if that makes sense. It's a challenge sometimes because I like to have people from, I've got an American character, people from lots of different backgrounds, and I like doing that. 'Cause I like to be as inclusive as possible and get lots of different types of people in. But I don't. I'm not good at accents myself, so I have to. Sometimes I have to do. That's another reason I do a lot of the dialogue out loud, is to try and see, does that sound right? Does it ring true? And hopefully, I get away with it.
Well, it seems believable to me.
Thank you. I don't think I've had any complaints. I'm totally leaving myself open to this now. Someone's going to write in, I'm sure, but I don't think anyone's ever complained and said, "Oh, that didn't sound like a Yorkshire person or something." Somebody complained once to me that they didn't think Mina sounded authentic because a Muslim wouldn't speak the way she does because she swears. And I thought, well, first and foremost, she's a Yorkshire woman. She's she's a Yorkshire woman first, Muslim second, as far as she's concerned. But fair enough. Everyone has a different opinion, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's every range of people in every faith and upbringing, isn't there? So there are probably
no one person in any faith or culture or background, is there?
No. But I do like what you were saying about trying. I think it was interesting what you were saying about being inclusive in the book, because I think it's good to read lots of different types of people in fiction.
Yeah. Well, I always try and write. I mean, it's difficult because to me, writing is about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and to try and imagine what it would be like. To be a single Muslim woman working in the police force. And obviously I don't know that. I can only guess, and I can't maybe get it 100% right. But to me, all writing is that. It's about putting yourself in someone's head. What would it be like to find a body? I've never found a body, but I've got to imagine what it would be like, what might go through your mind, or what it would be like to lose a loved one and never know what happened to them. These things, I think, are what interest us in reading. It's about fiction. To me, is about exploring the world and different people, not reading about people who are you all the time, but reading about people from all different walks of life and who they are and what they believe, what they think.
Do you have a favourite one of the books that you've written?
Favourite book that I've written? It's whichever one I've written most recently. So at the minute, it's definitely Sleeping Dogs. I love this book. It felt like a step up for me in terms of the format, with the two different time zones. It was a lot harder to write because of that, but I think I enjoyed it more. I really got into the kind of showing things. I do it in both. I sometimes show things in the past, and then we discover what the ramifications of that are in the present. And then sometimes I show things in the present, and then we see why that happened by what happens in the past. So that was fun to play around with. Yeah, so it's definitely Sleeping Dogs at the minute, but I've loved all of them. Yeah, they're my favorites. I can't pick. That's an evil question to ask an author.
Did you have to do a lot of planning to do those two timelines so seamlessly?
Yes, but it didn't work. So I then had to do a lot of rewriting and picking it apart and moving things around, because sometimes, well, you've got to position things for reasons of pace, and you've got to think, well, actually, I've just had a really exciting scene. I can't have it when we need it. It's things like that. So often you'll be moving whole chunks of the book round and saying, I have this happen earlier than it did. But then that's harder when you're also trying to mesh two stories together and sort of make it work. So it was really tricky, but fun. To me, that's the best bit. I actually struggle with the writing, the sort of first draft writing. I have to try and get it down as quickly as possible because I really struggle to do it. There's that blank page in front of me demanding words that I don't want to do, and I sit here and I'll do anything rather than write. I'll wonder, I'll even clean, I'll go and do anything rather than sit down and write and pick up the pen or keyboard and start writing. But once the words are down and I've got them on the page, I love playing around with them and trying to make them better and improving them and going, oh, actually, wouldn't it be much better if this happened? And if that bit happened earlier, so we see their application, and moving stuff, all that. To me, that's the fun. That's where I get the fun of rewriting. Someone else could have liked it for me originally, that would be preferable, and then I could just play around. But then it probably wouldn't be as much fun because it wouldn't be my work. So.
When you're sort of coming up with the ideas, I know you said this one started with like your police person talking about the notes. Do you get the inspiration from something like that, or do you kind of have an idea for the crime first, or do you just come up with something that the characters are going to do? What's kind of your instigating moment?
It's different things for different books. Fire watching came about. So initially, the idea for that came about because I'd written a short story about two elderly women characters who lived together, and one was sort of losing her mind a little bit, with some kind of dementia, and she kept slipping back and forth in time from past to present. It was just a little short story, but it was very clear that some things had happened to her in the past that you kind of piece together from throughout. That was the initial start of it, and then from that the kind of came, and that was that. Hawking came out because I needed a title that sounded similar to Fire Watching. It was the same number of letters, and I'd heard about this thing called night hawking, which people do, which is illegal metal detecting. For those that don't know, people who go out onto private land with metal detectors, dig it up, and steal the treasures that they find. And it's quite a big thing, but it hadn't been written about much up till that point. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. If someone goes out with a metal detector and finds more what they bargained for and digs up, something untoward. So that was the idea for that. Cold Reckoning very much is sort of the first three books are a bit of a trilogy. There's a loose story that runs through and it culminates in Cold Reckoning. So that was all the case. That one was kind of set in stone because I wanted to wrap up what I'd set up in the first two books, or at least mostly wrap up. There's still some unanswered questions that I might dip back into. And as I said, this one came about through a conversation with someone. So it's different every time. I read a lot, listen to snippets on the radio, you hear things. I heard something on the news today. I thought, that would make a really good story. All kinds of places can give you ideas. But often it's about combining ideas as well. You might get a little bit of something from somewhere and then something from somewhere else and go, actually, the two things together might work and give you more bang for your buck.
Is the overarching thread from the first three the thing that they talk about a little bit in Sleeping Dogs?
Yes, probably, yes. So it's about Adam's father and basically what happened to Tyler's father. So we get it's kind of hinted at in the first one, and then the second one developed a bit more, and then the third one, that's what that's about, basically.
And you said you're going to branch off eventually into another series, but you can't tell us anything.
No, I'm sorry, I Because I don't know as well. I've got all sorts of ideas. I've got short stories I've written, which maybe will turn into something at some point. But until I've actually done a deal with someone on it, I don't, I can't say too much more. I'm superstitious as well about telling my stories too soon. So yeah, but I'm currently working on something that is standalone. It's completely different. If that's helpful, so that's probably likely to see the light of day first. But I don't know. See, watch this space. Is all I can say. Sorry.
How long does it take you to write a book? 'Cause I thought you'd been writing. I was quite shocked when you said the first one was 2020. So I feel like you've been on the scene for longer than that.
No, no, I'm new, I suppose. The first book took me 10 years to write, but obviously that was kind of on and off, and I wrote something else in the meantime while I was working on that as well. And I was working full time and doing other things. The second one took me about 18 months. I was lucky because I got a 2-book deal, but the deal I got had a long publication tail, so I actually got longer than you would normally have to write the second one in. Third one I had to write in a year, and then Cold Reckoning was Sleeping Dogs probably was a bit longer. It probably took about 18 months in the end because it was delayed for various reasons, not all my own fault. But yeah, so I guess if it's going really well, I could probably write I have written a first draft of a book in about 3 months, but that's probably the quickest I could do it, and it's not the usual way. It normally takes a lot longer than that. If I was strict with myself and just wrote it all the way through, I could probably do it that quickly. Then it has to be edited, and that process, it takes as long as it takes. I never know how long that's going to take. I wish I was great at writing. I'm sure my readers do too.
Well, readers always do, though, don't we? We're all impatient for new books from our favourite authors.
Yeah, and then bless them, they'll say, "Oh, I read it in a day, and I just devoured it." And I always think, "Oh, that is lovely and very flattering," but also now go and read it again because I spent ages on that. It's like when you do something and you want to show it off and go, yeah, keep looking, come on, have another look.
Have you ever sold someone one of your books in a bookstore?
Yes.
Do you pass up to it and offer to sign it, or?
Yeah, always. Yeah, I think it's a bit tight to try and sell someone something and say, "Oh, this is a really good book," without actually admitting that it's yours. I always fess up and say, "Yeah, I'm a bit biased because I wrote it." But yeah, I sold one today to somebody. Sometimes people come in and tell me exactly what they think of them as well, which can be a blessing or a curse. It's not often they say bad things, but it does happen. I mean, it is strange selling your own books, but it's fun. The guys I work with as well are very good at sort of saying, "Oh, would you?" If they get one to the counter, they'll always say, "Do you want the author to sign it? He's standing over there. I'll go and ask him." So they like embarrassing me, but it's good. It's great.
I think a signed book is even more special, though.
Yeah, most people really love it as well. The fact that they've just met the author, even if they have no idea who I am, or they've just picked it up randomly. Other people have come in specifically for it, and they know me. There's many of the regulars have followed my career since I left, and have been really lovely in sort of their support and following me and stuff. So they'll always come and say hello, which is great.
What other author events have you got coming up? Because you can properly celebrate this release. You can go all over the place.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd time because there's nothing really happening now. I don't think. I haven't got anything lined up at all. There probably will be. Oh no, I'm doing Hull Noir in the new year. Can't remember the date. I think it's February. I might be wrong. It might be January. Google it. I'm sure there's lots of information about it. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that's actually set in stone. But I'm always, if anyone wants me to come and do something, I'll turn up to the opening of an envelope. I'll do anything. So more than happy to come along.
Marvelous. Do you go to lots of the book festivals and things?
Sorry?
Do you go to many of the book festivals that are around? There's quite a lot of ones in the north.
Yeah, I've been to pretty much all of them, I think, at one stage or another. I have to limit how many I go to a year because, it's the cost of getting there and accommodation and everything. But I don't know. I might go to Whitley Bay again. I like Bay Tales up in Whitley Bay. That's a lovely one. I don't think I'll make Newcastle. But maybe Harrogate in the summer. I do like Harrogate. It's always the weather's always, not always, but quite nice often.
Yeah, that's good.
But I like a festival. Yeah, they're good fun, and it's kind of something that's quite, well, not unique to crime, but there's a lot of them for crime writers and crime readers to attend, and it's quite a network, isn't it? Of people, it's lovely. It's like meeting up with all your old friends.
Yeah, really,
yeah,
really friendly and sociable. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice tight network in the crime world. If I could put it that way.
We put one on in Leeds every year, and it's like, well, I say every year, like we've done it for ages. We're on to our third one. We're planning our third.
Oh, right. When's that?
At the Carriage Work.
Yeah, and when?
This one's going to be in September.
Okay.
We've moved from June. Yeah.
Not done one before.
No, well, like I said, we're only on our third one, but it's quite nice. More nerve-wracking to pull off your own one, but it's fun to do.
It must be very hard work because the logistics and everything involved and making sure you get everything right.
It is, but we've got a good team of admin that helps with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to do all of these things, but you also have to have a job and do.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely come along next year. That sounds great.
Brilliant. We'll keep you in touch with it.
Yeah.
Other question I like to ask, and we touched on it with the comics, is what have you read recently and really enjoyed that you can recommend to us?
I just finished not long ago because I did an event with him. Hang on, it might be here. No, it's a book called The Grief Doctor by Jack Anderson, who's also Sheffield-based writer. It's really good. It's a debut novel. It's basically about a guy who suffers tremendous loss. His wife dies. That's no spoiler. She's dead before the start of the book, and he just can't get over her death. And his mother pays for him to go to this very exclusive clinic run by a very maverick young doctor who seems to know how to cure grief, but she's not quite what she says she is, and he's kind of stuck on a desert island, not a desert island, but on an island just off the coast of Wales with her, and it's creepy and disturbing, and it's great. Yeah, it's the Grief Doctor by Jack Anderson. It's brilliant.
That does sound good.
And I'm reading completely different novel. I'm reading Erasure at the minute by Percival Everett, American author.
So you do read kind of multiple genres?
Yeah, I'll read anything. I'm a member of a book club, started a book club with some friends a few years back. Well, getting on for nearly 20 years now. We meet up every month, and that's great because they always introduce me to books that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up myself. And I think it's really important to read as much as possible and to read as far and widely as possible, because you never know where you're going to get an idea from or an idea spark from. And it also, it's great. I love reading.
Me too. I'm reading a really interesting book about the Challenger space disaster.
Oh, really? Yeah, that does sound cool.
Non-fiction and very good.
Yeah. What's it called? Do you know?
It's called Challenger.
It's called Challenger.
Yeah, it's by Adam Higginbottom. He wrote Midnight into Novel as well, which was really good.
Oh, yeah, I know. I can't think of the name. I'm writing that down as well.
Yeah, I'm only 100 pages in, but I heartily recommend it so far. Yeah. Very interesting.
I've also read Tessa Hadley's novella The Party recently. That's very good. And I've got, next to my bed, I've got Judi Dench's biography about all the Shakespeare plays she's been in, and I keep dipping in. That's a great one for just dipping in and out of get little anecdotes from her over the years. It's fantastic.
If you're interested in drama and stuff as well, I would imagine it really is.
Yeah. I love Shakespeare, and so it's kind of best of both worlds, because she's brilliant, a legend. She's met everyone, she knows everyone, and she's very funny. And it's just like sitting and having a conversation with her, or the closest I'm going to ever get to do that, I suspect. It's great. It's really, really great for bedtime reading as well. Like, imagine having Judi Dench just reading you to sleep every night. That's got to be the dream, isn't it?
That has got to be the dream. Teaching Shakespeare made me appreciate Shakespeare.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
I think. Did you never appreciate it when you're at school, do you?
That was really into English. So we studied. I remember we studied Much Ado About Nothing. We went to see a play of it when I was at school. I mean, the thing about Shakespeare is you do have to see it performed, I think, to really appreciate it. If you're just reading it on the page, it's very inaccessible, very difficult. But you only have to be watching it for 5-10 minutes, and you start to understand and get it. And, actors are so brilliant, I think, at being able to convey that and bring meaning across from words that are always familiar to us. Yeah. And of course, it's like the original storytelling, maybe not original, but certainly one of the originals.
We've only got a couple of minutes left. Do you want to remind everyone what they're going to go away and buy?
Oh, I'd love to. It's this one, Sleeping Dogs. It's got a lovely, creepy cover of a Sheffield street with a puddle and a teddy bear come across in it. But feel free to go and buy any of the books. I'll love you forever if you do. Let me know what you think, but only if it's good. If it's bad, just ignore me. Just don't tell me.
Keep it quiet.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. Don't tell your friends.
And what's the order again? So if you start at the beginning, what's the correct order? So I know what I'm going away to buy.
I should show you the paperback, shouldn't I, really? Where is it? Oh. Fire Watching is the first one, followed by Night Hawking. And then Cold Reckoning, third. Yeah, that's a screen grab or something.
Yeah, that's the image, isn't it? The last one we all wanted to see. The books to go away by. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it. It's been great questions. Thank you.